Hi, this is Justin Takacs. I'd like to present my mini-mester 2020 and how my service learning was both inspirational and motivational on my worldview on helping others. So I started with a call to action in which I wanted to raise awareness through social media, volunteer even a little bit, so give time maybe on weekends or anything, but a consistent schedule. And then when you do serve to the greatest efficiency and potential, and don't just have it be numbers on a piece of paper. So my biblical worldview definitely changed before and after my service learning. So for example, I answered the upward question pre-service learning as God is a creator in this situation. But now after my service learning, I reflected that we saw God and his hands working in the world, helping others while we were on mini-mester. As for the inward question, before my service learning, I determined that I was God's beloved creation. Up until this point, I hadn't really incorporated serving others into my worldview. But however, post-service learning, I can see that God says I am his hands in this world, and he wants us to help others and serve others through him. And then finally, my outward question, before my service learning, I determined I could trust and follow him by helping those in my area through mini-mester. However, after my service learning, I found that God doesn't just want me helping those impoverished, but to love my neighbor, also known as the greatest commandment. So even loving things like teammates, coaches, classmates, just everyone in general, and not just limiting it to those impoverished. So next, I looked up what actually does the nation define service learning as. And according to the National Center for Service Learning, they define it through three characteristics. First, service learning constitutes activity that is focused on meeting human need in a community where that need has to do with the well-being of individuals and or the environment in which they live. The second characteristic is a key academic or civic objective to be achieved through combining service with learning and a prior identified to the activity. And then finally, opportunities for students to reflect on their experience and its connection to specific academic or civic objectives. Next, I wanted to find out what Jupiter Christian School perspective on service learning was, and I actually found it through their mission statement, which is Jupiter Christian School is committed to excellence in teaching the mind, reaching the heart, and inspiring servant leaders who will impact the world for Christ. So you can see that Jupiter Christian perspective on service learning would be teaching the mind, so learning what you do in the classroom, reaching the heart, reflecting on your service learning and growing from it, and then inspiring servant leaders, which means not just, just going through the motions, volunteering, but actually taking an active role in it. Next, I wanted to find a measurable goal for my service learning, so I knew that I wasn't just, going through the motions. So my main goals were, don't want it to just be another Jupiter Christian service learning service hour requirement. I know that we can't solve all the hunger in South Florida, but we can measurably make a tangible difference. And then next, maximize our time and effort. So not just go through the motion that I said before, but work to the best of our ability and really make the time worthwhile. So next, what is the purpose for this project? So when I thought about the word service learning, I kind of find the purpose. So there are two parts of it. You want to serve to learn and learn to serve. So obviously there's other purposes such as help hunger and fulfill capstone requirement, but the main actually general purposes are through service, you learn how your talents in the classroom apply to the real world, and then you learn how to best serve others and those around you through service. So I think that overall incorporates all the aspects of service learning, and I definitely experienced those at my mini-mester. So next, specifically for my mini-mester, I wanted to find the target audience and identify the target audience as those who struggle to find food or those impoverished in South Florida and Martin County. Okay, so now just to kind of give you a brief glimpse of my mini-mester. So the first project was on Saturday, March 7th with the House of Hope. It was out in the giant fields in Palm City. They grow a bunch of crops there. And what we were doing was gleaning. And gleaning is basically when an industrial company, they take all the, the good food, in quotation marks, and sell it to local, Publix, Trader Joe's, all those. But they leave a bunch behind because it doesn't meet their standards. What gleaning is you pick up all the leftovers and it can be used to make high quality food, just like House of Hope does. So the supervisors for this were Mrs. Knight and Mr. Shaw. And our goal was to fill 6 tubs, which were could hold 1,000 pounds each. So our goal was to collect 6,000 pounds or 3 tons worth of potatoes. So this was actually way harder than I thought. It started out very cold, but then it quickly heated up and we ended up getting into a sandstorm. So that made it very annoying with all the sand getting in your eyes and all that stuff. And also there were no breaks. There was a bathroom about 3 miles away. But overall it was very hard work. My role in this was kind of telling kids where to go so that we could get it done more efficiently and not just all stay in one area. And also you had to pick up the buckets full of potatoes as seen in the picture. And they probably weighed, once you fill them, about 100 and some pounds. And you had to pick them up to a 7-foot pickup truck bed. And that gets really tiring after a while. So I kind of did that and also ran buckets to different kids and kind of oversaw everything. So then our second project was at the YMCA in Stuart, Florida. And we were building a nutrition gardens for the kids so that they can learn about nutrition and how to grow their own food. So we were doing 6 beds and then 2 potato towers. Overall, as I look at it, it was kind of unorganized because while the supervisor, Lauren Mustillier, she really cares about the community, she's also kind of very unorganized. We only had one construction worker who knew what he was doing. So it was largely on our own and we had no clue what to do. But we kind of got it all done. So we built the beds and then filled them with dirt. And my role in this was, one, I was part of the building crew, so actually building the beds as seen in the picture, and then also dumping dirt because those beds are 3 feet tall, about, at least some of them, and wheelbarrows weigh full of dirt about 100, 200 pounds, something like that. So I just had to lift the wheelbarrows for 3 hours straight and dumping dirt or building the beds. And by Thursday, we ended up getting it all done, and it was split between Monday and Thursday. Monday was mainly setting the groundwork and building the beds, and then Thursday was kind of filling all the dirt and finishing everything up. And then our final project, which was Tuesday and Wednesday, was feeding South Florida. And this one actually surprised me the most because of just how large scale it is. They feed all of South Florida, even though they're based in Boynton Beach. They have an assembly line system for getting all these family care packages out. It's based in 4 steps. So first step is the approvers. And they kind of say is this donation good to eat or bad to eat? And they put it in the yes or no pile. And then my job, which was the second step, the runners, you carry these baskets full of food. You bring them across the warehouse to another station, which is called the sorters, where they there's a bunch of bins of different categories, such as meats, dairy, snacks, drinks, etc. And the sorters put them, the general donation baskets, they put all the food into each category. And then builders go around the bins and they have a care package box, and they pick a certain amount from each category and build a care package box for the families. So the first day, Tuesday, we did 5,000 pounds of food, which comes out to about 4,000 meals. And then the second day, we beat our record and did 7,500 pounds of food, which is about 6,200 meals in about 6 hours. So this is my iMovie where it kind of shows my experience before and after, my thoughts. It's my initial impressions as soon as I got in the car and as soon as I finished and got in my car to go home. So it's really raw footage, and I think it really shows how I really feel about this. But yeah, here's my own iMovie. Enjoy. Okay. Hope that iMovie was good. Now I want to go over some of my big takeaways, and these aren't like spiritual, but they're just like in general takeaways about like volunteer work and nonprofits in general. One, efficiency is key, and that's seen through like Feeding South Florida, how they were so much more efficient and we got so much better results. Two, you need qualified people. Just showing in YMCA how we only had one person who knew what they were doing. I didn't want to say anything, but the beds weren't even held down by anything, so they could basically just blow away in a hurricane, which might be, in 3 months. Third, they need more money because at the YMCA, we only had one box of nails for like over 200 feet of plywood to screw together. And we literally had to like build it wrong just so that we could have enough nails. And then fourth, anytime helps, even 3 hours a weekend. Biggest example is Feeding South Florida, how we spent 6 hours and sorted over like 13,000 pounds worth of food. So next is like how I connect it to a personal story of mine. So the theme of this story is like consistency is key. And I connect it to my fitness journey because that's like something that I can easily connect to because I'm always involved with it. So when I used to work out, I worked out like 5 to 6 hours a week, super inconsistent. I'd kill myself in the gym and then like not want to work out for another week. And it just resulted in injuries, demotivation, and wasn't really like productive. But then over time, I got more consistent, more efficient. And the more consistent I was, the more insane results I got. And then also related to this story, like how it connects to my service learning is, I know that you don't want to just volunteer for like 10 hours a day and only once a month. Like it's better to do it in like 2 to 3 hour increments because that way you're both more motivated, you get excited for the next week, and you can work harder for only 2 hours instead of like at the 7th hour getting just destroyed and not wanting to do it anymore. So how did I grow through this academically? Well, I grew with communication skills. I grew with working with people. I learned how to come up with a plan and put that plan into effect. I learned how to organize teams, and I learned how to see how classroom knowledge applies to the real world. For example, calculus and geometry. Next, how did I grow personally, spiritually, and morally? Well, I grew personally by learning that consistency is key. And then I also learned that helping others is a much bigger portion of my worldview than I thought it was initially. So I didn't really have serving others in my worldview, but now it's a big part, and I see how important it really is in following Jesus. And then also going back to my inward question, I learned that I'm God's hands in the world. So like he can't just, snap his fingers and everything's good. I mean, he can, but like that's not what he does. But like we're his like hands and working with this world and helping people. So that concludes this presentation. Thank you for your time. I will now be open to questions. And here is my Works Cited page. And you can contact me at jtack710@gmail.com for questions and answers. Thank you for your time.